Hey folks, Reno News Now here, back again with another live stream. We are joined today by Sacramento Community Watch and Xander the Educator. How are you folks doing tonight, guys?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent as always.
Oh, good to hear, folks. Still got a bit of a cold thing going on, but I'm pushing through it. So tonight, guys, we are wrapping up part 3 here on the Sacramento Community Watch Network, folks. Do apologize here. ADD's kicking in a little bit weird here. So we're going to cover up the last bit of the court audio and go through that, and then possibly bring you some other stuff. But first, we got some housekeeping going on here. Sacramento Community Watch does have some things he wants to bring up in regards to our channel here. So I'm going to go ahead and just shift it over to him and have him take over here for a second.
Yeah, thank you guys all for listening. First thing I want to mention is we have memberships available now. So if you want to go on and apply for one of those memberships, just starting at $2.99. I'm sure you guys already know that, for Community Watchmen 1, 2, and 3. Also, we have super chats, super thanks, super stickers also available for you guys to check out. Congratulations to everybody who have joined us as far as subscribing. We have 117 plus subscribers in the last 28 days. So thank you for that. A big round of applause for that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Also, we want to give special thanks to the USA, of course, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Ireland, Germany, and South Africa. Those are where all of our viewers are coming from, and we want to say thank you for all of that.
And yes, folks, we do have super chats and super stickers. If you guys are joining us on the live stream tonight, go ahead and send us a shout out, and we will feature one of your chats live on at the end of here. We also do have CashApp available, folks, so please donate as much as you can, or if you'd like. We also have a GoFundMe that's listed in there as well for the Sacramento Community Watch Defense Fund. We got a lot of things going on, folks. Again, we're currently in the appeals process. We're starting that with the end of this court case here. So as we wrap up, just keep in mind that we have successfully started the appeals process for Sacramento Community Watch, and hopefully we can get a higher court to agree with our way of thinking that this is basically a contempt of cop law, and it needs to be stricken down because there was no interference. Interference is a physical act, and that's the reason why they're not charging him on that. And they can't charge him on obstructing government operations either, folks, because it's been struck down as unconstitutional. So the only thing that they can hit him with is resisting a public officer at this point. And again, it's contempt of cop is the way the law is written. And it's not like it's resisting after detainment or anything like that. It basically, the way the law is written, folks, is if a cop tells you to do something, you better do it. Otherwise, you're obstructing or resisting. It just makes no sense. And, thanks to Tyrant Tony, who wants to be YouTube famous here.
Am I going to be famous too? You're going to put me on your YouTube video?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're going to do that as well. And just remember, folks, he's the one when said under color, when Sacramento says this is a violation under my rights under color of law, this was his response.
Do you see the color that I am?
So, again, folks, we're just going to go ahead and break it down for you again real quick. Part 1 was where we covered Tyrant Tony on the stand, and part 2 is where they covered my testimony as well as the stolen car victims testimony as well. So we're just going to play that quick intro that we had about Tyrant Tony from our second live stream about the first live stream, and just kind of give you folks a recap of what this officer, or tyrant as we like to call him here professionally, of what his testimony was. So let's go ahead and pull that back up here and go ahead and play it.
Not the first. Tell me about the first auditor. What do you mean by that?
I've dealt with multiple auditors in the past.
What is an auditor?
People that try to exercise their First Amendment right, or they do exercise their First Amendment right, And from my understanding, when they call themselves auditors or police auditors or whatever they call it, they try to bait officers in and try to see if they I don't know.
That's what he was doing.
What was that, Xander?
If that's what he was doing, seemed to work real well.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, folks, it's like as we covered under my testimony, you don't need an education to be an auditor. You don't need any formal training. You just need to grab a camera and record your government officials in action, as is your First Amendment right to be a journalist.
And it would help. It would help if you actually know some of the laws as well. So
it does, and making sure. I mean, I have a thing here that I've created for Sacramento Community Watch Network. Our qualified immunity busters. It's just one of those things that we'd like to have on the street. That the pocket reference to the law, something that these officers should have. They have their cell phones. They can. Well, yeah, let's get them with this one. But yeah, it's just, it's funny how, our QIBs even are updated when we keep an eye on it, like for obstructing government operations. That one law is stricken down, but they're going to be the first ones to use it. And unless you pull it out and say, hey, no, it was stricken down by this law, they don't know. We don't train them on the law, folks. We've seen that with his training record. It's mostly about guns.
They try to. Did I hear beat officers in? Bait. Oh, I see. So that they try to kind of push the limits of their free speech rights.
Yes.
Got it.
On research, so then I started getting out videos from multiple people, family members, who the whole people from my parents from Southern California sending me videos that he posted.
Okay.
So that's when I started clicking in.
And this was all this was all in between when you detained him at 5:30 p.m. and when you wrote your report?
That was actually after that. I had a few days to write my report. This is a citation and have to do it that night.
Yeah.
He knew who you were.
I'm sorry, so 2 days.
Absolutely.
You're writing the report and then it comes to mind.
Correct. So we have 7 days to do a citation. So yes, it was actually my day off. I was working overtime this day. So when I came back on my Monday, that's when
Somebody who doesn't deserve overtime. He needs to have his head in the books rather than in the overtime.
And help us understand that.
Yeah, so like I said, I didn't know about these videos until a lot of people started sending them to me after the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was one of those videos of the July.
I bet you a lot of people was sending you stuff.
I bet you they're still sending him stuff.
Okay.
Right.
A lot more now.
Did you call him a nosy person a couple times?
Yes.
Shout out to our biggest fan, Tyrant Tony.
The male subject that I
Part of the Tyrant's family. Hey, folks. Have a nice day.
Oh yeah, shout out to the Tyrant's family. Why don't you redress your government directly? Go ahead and contact, Tony the Tyrant and let him know how you think he's doing his job, because he's a public officer. This is public information. This is open to the public. If you guys want a copy of this, $35 over at the courthouse. Get the exact same thing. Guess what? After tonight, probably first thing tomorrow, I'm going to post the whole entire audio of this whole video that we're watching today over on the ADHD Auditor. So go please like, share, and subscribe at ADHD Auditor.
You guys go get that audio. Go get it.
Yeah, go get that audio.
asking him to stop recording.
Mm-hmm. And how the male half that was detained respond?
He was drunk and he was also on his side. He was trying to tell me, hey, that's my sister or whoever he was with.
Mm-hmm. Did the male, and I don't want to go too far afield, did the male subject you had detained, did he respond, he's fine, he's trying to protect my rights?
Yep.
And in your mind, what is a lawful command issued by an officer?
To stop where I tell him to.
And
There we go.
what makes that command lawful?
Yeah, I'm gonna object. He's
Okay, so she's going to object over an officer who gives lawful commands on a daily basis, who doesn't know what a lawful order is, folks. Again, a lawful order is a command given by an officer knowing full well in effect the law is on his side.
You can't make this stuff up. You can't make this shit up.
But you know what most officers think a lawful order is? Anything that comes out of their mouths.
Yeah.
It's downright disrespectful. These
Remember
are
what
law
he
enforcement. They're law enforcement officers. When he arrested Xander, he even says, "I'm giving you a lawful order." This is what he thinks a
Right.
lawful order is, folks. Just because anything comes out of his mouth, he thinks it's a lawful order.
Yeah,
Downright disrespectful.
remember what Egerton said? He said, so if you walked up to somebody and said, shoot him. He said, I'm not going to tell him that because, but
That's my job.
that's my job.
The gun nut.
But what's the difference? What's the
He's
difference?
He's a gun nut who likes to play with guns. So he gets a job on the police force where he gets to play with what? Guns lawfully. So therefore, he take all his training is in the gun background. There's very little law training as we've seen in previous videos. I can still pull that footage up.
Right. That's why I always suggest that they go work at Target Security. They get a flashlight, a whistle.
Oh,
That's
no. He
That's
didn't
it.
even should work security because at that point he thinks he's got some authority just because they're on Target property.
Put that popsicle down. You're like, what?
Yeah, no, he needs to work the fast food lines.
Not an expert that draws a legal conclusion.
Well, not your best shot.
Not a legal expert that draws a legal conclusion, but gives lawful orders on a daily basis. Go freaking figure. Why are you objecting? That's just, if you can't offend your officer knowing what a lawful order is, that's just downright disgraceful, Ms. Schumann.
So lawful command would be, I'm a law enforcement officer, investigating some type of crime. I'm giving him no command to stop. Obviously, if I wasn't really doing much and he was just walking by, then that's...
I wasn't really doing much. He even said, I wasn't even doing much. So he basically admitted to you right then and there that he was not obstructing your investigation.
Horrible.
And yet he's giving you lawful orders because he's wearing a police officer clown costume and thinks that he can boss the general public around.
Yeah, they take it right to their. It goes right to their head so
It
quick.
does.
Damn.
He still hasn't told him what a general lawful order is. He's basically giving a description of what he told you to do because he doesn't know what a lawful order is.
All fine with me, but at this point, I'm actually investigating a crime.
Right, we knew that.
Investigating a crime, just giving a lawful order to stop.
Giving him a lawful order to stop. Again, what part of the law gives you the ability to tell him to stop? Where in the law does it say that you have to be back 21 feet?
His
Just
part.
like there's no case law or law that gives distance on how close an auditor can be, except for that Arizona law that got struck down by federal court.
Right.
That's kind of what we're basing our decision off of. Go ahead.
What's up, Xander?
Florida passed a law, 21 feet. Everything's varied from state to state and from
Even down the municipality.
district. We're in the 9th district, and there is no law in the 9th district for distance whatsoever.
On both sides.
Correct.
There's no law on distance on both sides. And the Supreme Court has basically kept it that way, even the federal courts all the way up, because what they want to do is they want to take it on a case-by-case basis, which is their right. They can do that. But at the same time, they got to take a look at the law and whether or not it's actually constitutional or not, which it's not. So, okay, folks, so we're going to go ahead and as we left off last time, we got done with my testimony. Go ahead and check out the live stream part 2. If in case you missed that, please go back and watch this from the beginning. We extremely like you to do that on Sacramento Community Watch's channel. So let's go ahead and bring that up here, folks. And what they're going to do next is they're going to actually call Tony the Tyrant back to the stand, and they're going to ask him a few more questions. And some of it may be away from the microphone because we were talking distances, and they were having him in the courtroom kind of giving distances, because now I'm back in the courtroom being able to watch all this from my perspective here. So this is basically where I'm able to continue watching from a journalistic perspective at this point.
And you measured that distance between your position and where Mr. England was approximately 10 feet. So, Your Honor, just by way of, yeah, you're with me. All right, thank you. I have nothing further this time, Your Honor.
Anything?
No, yeah.
Okay, you can step down any of the witnesses. Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and again, folks, I want to point out that this was all done. The closed captioning that you're seeing here is all done by AI. I had not watched this previously to dissect and make sure every little part of the closed captioning is right. So please, bear with us. We're reading this for the first time as we're hearing it as well. So, please bear with the closed captioning as it's not 100% accurate, as it was done with very poor audio quality and an AI trying to do its best.
Wait, let me briefly canvass. Talk it out. I think your initial strategy is ready. That's all right. Sure, at this time the defense rests.
Okay, of course. Any green?
Your Honor, I do have one rebuttal witness.
One rebuttal. Mr. Rebuttal, get up there.
Officer Sotelo, Your Honor.
You've been sworn, so thank you.
Your Honor, I'll keep this short. If I can have Exhibit 4.
Don't do it.
That's gotta be it. 4? Exhibit 4?
See what's on me?
On me, half.
Three. I've got 4.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, plaintiff's Exhibit 4. Can you mark with this pen where you were in relation to Mr. England? Did you want to come up for class, Mr. Washington? And we'll show it to the judge.
So I was actually standing a little bit near this water bottle right here. This Holly was standing about right here, and I was standing about right here.
Okay, can you write H under Holly?
H.
And then OS?
OS.
Okay, so if this measurement here was 10 feet, which is what Mr. Peck testified to, would you say you're approximately half of that?
Yes.
So about 5 feet?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else, Mr.
Thank you for joining us again, Officer Sotelo. You were marking 4.
Yes.
Officer Sotelo, when you took a couple days to prepare your report, did you describe the distances between yourself and Mr. England?
No. I think I mentioned it was steps.
Steps?
Yes.
About how many steps?
2 to 3 steps.
How long does it take you to traverse 5 steps? Or excuse me, 5 feet?
5 feet, 2 to 3 steps.
Okay, would you stand up, please? Would you come out of the wall?
So yeah, at this point, he's getting up and
with your feet, what you estimate 5 feet to be? You're actually up there.
I believe
He's getting up and walking the distance of 5 feet between, from where he was standing up to the wall.
yeah, and I think he did a poor job, but I can't really judge him on that because with my ADHD, I got poor distance, poor judgment of distance. That's the reason why we had to go out and get those tape measures, is I wanted to make sure. Like I even said, it's like even at 16 feet with the tape measure that we had, I maxed it out. We needed a bigger tape measure, so it was just one of those things.
I'm 5'10".
Yeah, yes, folks. He's 5'10". He's a little, as tall people call him, a little short shit. So,
Hey, I'm 6 foot, so.
Well, you're a tall person. You call people 5'10" short shits, don't you?
Sometimes.
I call you all short.
And it's always the short ones that have something to prove. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry if you're vertically challenged folks, but I find it hilarious.
You can stand about 5 feet from the wall, your best guess.
About right here.
Okay. And if you could walk to the wall.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Nothing for Your Honor.
Nothing on that, Your Honor. Okay.
That was not a command, Your Honor. It was a request.
Your Honor, can he stay in the courtroom now?
That was not a command.
Your Honor, I'm just going to keep this short. I know the court knows the law. I'll just.
Okay, so now here's closing remarks, folks. So again, Ms. Schumann is going to try to make a bad faith argument, and again, what we're saying is you got to listen to Mr. Edgerton when he gets his chance to speak. It's just remarkable that unfortunately, you guys you'll hear later. We're going to go ahead and continue.
He was not arrested for filming. He was arrested for repeatedly disobeying the officer's commands. First, not removing himself from the street. Second, he continued to approach the officer and Miss Anderson. He was told at least 3 times to stop, failed to do so, continued approaching. He had to be detained for officer safety reasons and for the safety of Holly. I think we've proven.
Shout out to Oklahoma Outlaw Audits. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you.
Mr. Edgerton.
Thank you, Your Honor. We don't think it's such a clear-cut case, in part because there's a muddled factual record. The court's going to have to make a determination as to whether the difference between Mr. England and Officer Sotelo in that final interaction was 5 feet, as the city proffers, 10, 15 feet, as the defense has indicated. But additionally, it's this question of how close is too close. We have this phenomenon of First Amendment auditors, folks who are in an effort of promoting transparency, monitoring public activity, including police activity. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. And unfortunately, this is an example of the difficulties we have between law enforcement and these folks trying to negotiate a way forward. There is a principle in the law that I don't need to just wilt to any kind of command I'm given. We had this exchange with Officer Sotelo about what he believes a lawful command is. He basically testified that it's anything he says while in uniform and while on duty. And while we respect and appreciate the sacrifices and risk that officers are exposed to, we also have civil liberties, including the First Amendment right to record, to have access to information, and those things can't just simply go by the wayside because an officer says, give me some space. I think Officer Sotelo's...
Yeah, exactly, guys. It just boils down, to officer safety, and is what it is, folks. It's just...
testimony was troubled from a credibility standpoint. I'll ask the court to really make a credibility determination as to whether...
Shout out to AFTP. That's a silent auditor, I believe, right?
Hey, fam, how's it going?
How you doing, bro?
Thanks for joining in.
In September of 2023, Officer Sotelo had no recollection of who Walter England was, who this guy with a cell phone camera was, after having had a multi-minute standoff with him.
Me and Xander the Educator had a multi-minute standoff with Officer Sotelo, Tony the Tyrant. He's disrespectful. He shines a light in your face. He shines the light at you in the daytime. Who hasn't seen that? Him shining a light. Hey, get out the street, man. Like, who? That's some weird stuff. It's daylight out right now. Look. I mean, come on. It's retarded. Let's keep going.
About 6 weeks prior. The court will have to determine whether that was credible testimony. If it was not credible testimony, it very much gets to the officer's state of mind and what he really reasonably believed was going on. I think all indications are that he should have known, and probably did subjectively know, that Mr. England intended nothing more than to film him as he conducted his activity. Officer Sotelo even seemed to take some offense to the idea that he was being baited into some kind of a civil rights violation. And if that was his state of mind, frankly, he took the bait. He allowed himself to be drawn into a circumstance where he was going to do something violative of a citizen's free speech rights because he finds it irksome and because maybe...
And it's always the cops who think that you're in to bait them into a civil rights violation are the ones who apparently are getting the civil rights violations. Right. We're not trying to bait them in. It has nothing to do with baiting.
Right. You know, the funny thing is we have a job to do, and our job is to merely monitor and oversee law enforcement or any government employees, whatever, while we're out doing cop watching, of course. But they just don't let us be. You know, they want to give us a hard time, give us unlawful directives, stand back, do this, go over there, pull a gun, do a backflip. You know, it's ridiculous and it's getting crazy. And, you know, we got to put a stop to it, period.
Definitely. And it needs to start with training the officers in the law
Yep.
to begin with, starting with the Constitution of the United States.
Right.
He finds that is
Go ahead.
People like myself and Xander the Educator, as well as Reno News Now, we're tired of having to say the same thing over and over and over and over. Why don't law enforcement already know these things? Why don't they already know it before they get put out in the street, put into service? Why don't they know it? Why don't they know it?
And during their whole 6 weeks or 6 months, it really all depends on what jurisdiction you fall into, is how long their training is. I've heard 6 weeks, I've heard 6 months. But the common theme amongst all of them is, according to NHTSA, they're supposed to have 1 week of DWI training. And what do they do during that DWI training? Well, they sit them down and they teach them every aspect of DWI law from beginning to end, and what to do, what not to do, what you're looking for, these clues, this, that, and the other thing. And they want you to pay attention to these things. And then what do most cops do? The pickies, the ones, the bad ones, they bundle it all up into an hour's worth of stuff that they remember. And then they tyrannize people over.
They put it in one of these little Vaseline jars. They put it in their pocket. They put it right in pocket.
Or they get trained on the field on how to do these things incorrectly, rather than continuing to stay by the book, because that's what they're training you during that week, is by the book. But they don't give them a week on the Constitution. There needs to be a whole week on the constitutional law and what you can and cannot do as an officer. And it needs to start with day one with the ID cookie.
Fourth Amendment.
We're going to start putting cayenne pepper on their cookies.
It's so funny how the DMV is the one who creates the cookies for the police officer. And we're just a cookie delivery system.
dismissive of the important sacrifices he makes as a member of our community. So his state of mind is very important, as is the objective reality of how far apart folks were. He makes statements on video that the court heard, in which were reiterated that he knows Mr. England's coming around to video them. He wants him to stay 30 feet back, but his training indicates that 21 feet is far enough, and maybe he...
See? Oh, man. Shout out to Mr. Edgerton. He's on point. He's definitely on point. And he made it a point to say it again, like, how close is too close? You say 21 feet. Your training says 21 feet. There's no law for 21 feet. It's almost like, dude.
Right. Just as there's no law for the auditor's previous golden rule of 10 foot, you know, there's no rule or law that says that, you know, 10 foot or 8 foot is the golden rule now.
Right.
But there's nothing on their side either. So it all comes down of contempt of cop over the NRS failing to obey the officer.
Even would have been fine with a shorter distance. He refuses to engage in Mr. England in a meaningful conversation about how to balance those equities, his safety concerns on the one hand and Mr. England's free speech rights on the other. He moves in very quickly, as the court will see from the video, from I need you to step back and investigating to boom, now you're being detained.
Right. Absolutely no de-escalation. Absolutely no de-escalation. So it should be that, okay, yeah, he's getting too close. Have a little conversation. You already admitted you weren't doing anything to begin with. Oh, Oklahoma outlaw audits. The court allows them to lie. Yes, the court allows them to lie outside of court. And they lie to the public. And you know, we have found some inconsistencies in Tony the Tyrant's court, whatever he was doing here in court. You know, we've already flushed some of those out in the court of public opinion, but you know, where he's lied. But again, it's all up to the court that's here to make the actual truthful determination out of this. And you know how the courts are, they side with the police officers, especially in the lower courts.
It's in a matter of maybe 5 seconds. And additionally, we have to contend with the legal framework, and the city very graciously has not kind of trampled on me more for the memorandum of law being filed this morning. They pushed back, I think, intelligently and rightfully in some aspects of that. But the reality is, we do have a First Amendment principle. It's well established that filming in public is acceptable, filming law enforcement is acceptable, and this really does come down to a question of how close is too close. There wasn't a meaningful exchange there. We don't have a bright line rule in the state of Nevada. As the memorandum of law indicates, Arizona had actually an explicit 8-foot rule that was enjoined by a federal judge as violative of the Constitution. Various jurisdictions or various cases deal with 10 to 15 feet as really being kind of in the action zone or the gray zone, and we're also in that gray zone here. And in any case, and additionally, the Wilson case, which I cite to, parties have some disagreement about exactly how on all fours that is, but we have our Court of Appeals a month and a half ago interpreting 197-190 as requiring specific intent and all.
Okay, and what he's referring to here with that NRS, folks, is that is actual interfering with a police officer. So Nevada on the books has interference with a police officer as well as resisting a public officer. So the way the interference law is written is that there's basically boiled down to layman's terms as threats of force or violence or using force or violence against an officer. So like, hey, officer, I'm going to beat you up is threats of force and therefore is interfering with the police officer. Now, resisting a public officer is basically contempt of cop, as we keep saying. Basically, an officer they call it obstructing and resisting, ONR, and, it makes absolutely, what he's saying here is that particular law requires specific intent, and they're saying that if that's the case, that specific intent, threats, force, or violence, should be applied to this law as well, is what he's arguing here.
Also requiring conduct that is either physical.
Yo, shout outs to You Have Rights, Cops Have Duties. Welcome in, bro. I'll be glad when you guys come back up here so we can do some more cop watching.
Obstructing, right, either physical force or just kind of standing in someone's way, blocking them, or fighting words. The mere speech, including the expressive conduct of filming an officer, would not satisfy 197-190. I don't see a lot of daylight between that statute and 199-280, which is the statute charged here. Again, there are different statutes, I can see that, and I made some maybe hamstrung arguments as to the different ways that those two very similar statutes might fit into our statutory scheme. But the bottom line is they're very similarly worded statutes. They have a willfulness component. They involve obstructing, delaying, hindering, or resisting. Common language. The Scott case from 2015 involved a Carson City municipal provision that merged all those terms together. So we're really dealing with very much the same situation. And the Court of Appeals has told us that there has to be specific intent to interfere with an officer's activity, and the activity, the conduct has to be either fighting words or some kind of physical action. Mr. England did nothing more than approach, recording. It was obvious he was recording. Officer Sotelo knew that was what was going on. And again, this is a case not of a preponderance, but of a proof beyond reasonable doubt. Meaning the city has not carried their burden. We'd ask the court to acquit Mr. England. Thank you.
Your Honor, I just want to put a couple things on the record. So the Wilson case, obviously we're dealing with a different statute here. The Wilson.
We want you to ignore what he just said because it's a different statute. And Mr. England's not being charged with this statute because interference is a physical act. He wasn't physically interfering. He was basically told to get back by the officer, which he didn't listen to, which he kind of did because whenever he was told to stop recording across the street, he walked across the street and then.
It's a whole bunch of hamster shit.
So yeah.
Pellets, little pellets.
She's grasping at straws. She knows she doesn't have a proper defense for this case, or a proper prosecution for this case because it all hinges on constitutionality. And to be quite honest, what they're trying to do here, folks, is trying to prevent Sacramento Community Watch from filing a federal lawsuit against them for a second time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, shout out to anybody out there. We're looking for lawyers. If you guys can get us in touch with civil rights attorneys who'd be willing to take on these cases, look at our live streams, look at our content. We will be more than happy to reach out to us. Sacramento Community Watch at gmail.com, Reno News Now at outlook.com. Please get in touch with us, folks, if you have any questions, or even if you want to reach out to us about your own case. You want to show, you guys wanted us to show things like this about stuff that's happened to you with a police department that's happened to you. Feel free to send us our way, you guys. It doesn't even have to be Reno. It doesn't have to be Sparks. It could be California. It could be all across this country. Let us know, and we may feature you in one of our live streams or future content.
Some cases dealing with NRS 197.190. Here, the defendant's been charged under NRS 199280. So there are two different statutes. We haven't received any cases saying that the Wilson case applies.
There are no lawyers, only Zool.
To 199.280, so 199.280 stands on its face. I do want to add, though, that
Okay, I got this in a slide here. Let me just pull this up real quick here. I know what slides they're on here. 16. Okay, here we go. Wait, so this is what Sacramento was charged with here, folks. I kind of want to bring these up again just so you guys can read them, because we keep saying, contempt of cop and resisting and interfering, but we want you guys to read the law here. So this is NRS 199.280. This is resisting a public officer. This is what Sacramento was charged with. It says any person who, in any case, under any circumstances not otherwise specifically provided for, willfully resists, delays, or obstructs a public officer in discharging or attempting to discharge any legal duty of his or her office shall be punished. And then 1-2 are where a firearm or a dangerous weapon is used. That wasn't the case here. He got subsection 3, where no dangerous weapon is used in the course of such resistance, obstruct, or delay for a misdemeanor. Again, this ain't resisting like an officer, like, okay, you're under detainment, you need to put your hands behind your back. No, I'm not going to do it. That's not what this law is. And when most people hear resisting in Nevada, that's what they equate this to.
Right.
That's not what it is. There is no resisting arrest in Nevada. It's resisting a public officer. And the way that this is worded is purely contempt of cop. The other one, interfering with a public officer, NRS 199.280, except under circumstances where a greater penalty is provided, any person who, by means of threat, force, or violence, that's why I keep saying threat, force, or violence, attempts to deter or prevent any executive or administrative officer from performing any duty imposed upon the officer of law, or who knowingly resists by force or violence any executive administrative officer in the performance of the officer's duty, is guilty of a gross misdemeanor. So they couldn't charge him with interfering because he didn't interfere. He wasn't, using threats, force, violence. You weren't deterring or preventing. The best that they could do here is resisting a public officer under contempt of cop. And again, we keep pointing out NRS 171.1233, which is slide 6 here. Let me pull that up here, folks. This is our bread and butter. This is what I call a protective law for us. And I want you guys to think of this too. NRS 171.1233, recording of a law enforcement activity. A person who is not under arrest or in the custody of a police officer may record a law enforcement activity and maintain custody and control of that recording and any property or instruments used by that person to record law enforcement activity. A person who is under arrest or in the custody of a peace officer does not, by that status alone, forfeit the right to have any such recordings, properties, or instruments maintained and returned to him or her. This subsection must not be construed to authorize a person to engage in actions that interfere or obstruct a law enforcement activity or otherwise violate any other law in an effort to record law enforcement activity. So just so you folks are aware, Sacramento Community Watch, I and Xander all know this law by heart. NRS 171.1233. The thing is, we know that we're not allowed to obstruct law enforcement. So how can we willfully obstruct an officer when this law here says that we're not allowed to willfully obstruct an officer in the first
Right.
place?
The problem is they don't know NRS 171.1233. The law enforcement don't know. Schumann doesn't know. I don't even think the judge knows. If he knows, he doesn't give a damn. You know, that's what the
So-
problem is.
So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and bring this back to the stage here.
If it did apply, if you look at the Wilson case, it actually says under 22, so it looks like star 22.
Which one is it? Get it together. Which one is it?
That
Yeah.
a person's action or inaction may constitute physical conduct that hinders, delays, or obstructs an officer. Here you have, even if that statute applies, which it doesn't, even if it did, you have physical action by the defendant of refusing to comply with the officer. He was told at least 3 times on the sidewalk to stay back. He didn't. And I'll also add there's no clear Nevada law or Ninth Circuit law dealing with how far away is too far away. So I'll just note that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Which means there's no law that says how close is too close.
Exactly.
You
I was
just
just about to say that.
fucking proved our point with that statement. There's no law that says how far away is too far away.
Yeah,
That-
and you're right, Silent Auditor. They don't know any of it when it comes to the rights and freedoms of people because they don't train them properly. And I might be able to dig that up this afternoon too here and show you that what I'm talking about that.
You're doing an incredible job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I look at this case and I saw the other things you did before and after. I disregard those as far as your involvement with Officer Sotelo.
Okay, so basically what the judge is saying here, if I get this right, guys, is that he's basically throwing out the prior evidence. Basically, you guys recording Tony the Tyrant back in the June or July, and basically what you did and where he was doing prior restraint with you folks, he was basically going to toss that out in his decision here. So again, it's +1 for the prosecution side at this point.
But, you know, I look at the totality of the circumstances and the state of mind of a police officer, and I think that's embodied within the language of the statute as far as hindering, delaying, or obstructing the police officer. You know, you said...
How is that in the body of the language?
I have no idea, but I was confused about after he said that. What are you talking about, Judge Draculich? What are you? Let's go back.
A person who, in any case, under any circumstances not otherwise specifically provided for, willfully resists, delays, or obstructs a public officer in discharging or attempting to discharge their legal duties in his or her office shall be punished. How exactly does any of that apply to that law? You got me, Judge. If it's clear to you, you surely ain't making it clear to the court, the court of public opinion.
Did anybody even read the law there?
I don't think we even read it out loud. It should have probably been read out loud in court. And to me, it would have gone to me if I would have read it out and it goes, this surely sounds like contempt of cop to me.
Okay, once again, totality of circumstance, you're across the street. You're in the lane of travel. You could have been hit, but that's where it started. And you've got the camera going. He says, hey, whatever he says, get out of there, you know.
And he was out of there within 30 seconds.
So you walk all the way up, and, 40 yards, come over. I should have had that.
Yeah, contrary to regular belief, I walked up 40 yards. So, I mean, what?
You're expert with this one. You back and come back down, and you're still filming. You've got your hand down by your side. This is a police officer who...
Where else is my hand supposed to go? On my neck?
I mean, there's other auditors out there who have their hands in their pockets.
In my
And
ear?
when the officer tells them to get their hands out of their pockets, they tell them no. What law gives you, what law states that I have to take my hand out of my pocket? Am I being detained? No, then no, my hand's not coming out of my pocket.
Oh, it's supposed to go on my shoulder while I record, you guys,
No.
or on my hip.
I'm recording you, officer. Please don't arrest me. Please don't arrest
Or
me.
on my head. There we go.
See, both hands are on the camera, officer. Here's my tripod. Here, both hands are on the camera.
I'm so confused by his comments. I'm confused.
Well, again, it all boils down to officer safety. That's basically what he's going with is that he's going rather than going off of the law, he's going off of case law based on officer safety, and there is no law on officer safety.
Welcome in, Otto the Watchdog.
There was ample evidence that not to
Welcome into the chat, Otto the Watchdog. Thank you for joining us.
too far back in the past,
Peace,
the
Otto.
investigator was aware of an officer being shot. This is what I'm going to base my opinion on. It's 1.5 seconds to pull a gun out and shoot.
Okay, it takes 1.5 seconds to pull out a gun and shoot. Did Sacramento Community Watch have a gun on him? Did they find a gun when they detained him? No.
No.
Did he have a taser on him whenever he got arrested? No.
Nope.
I
had my Vaseline. This is dangerous. So
depending on the situation, I mean, a lot of times we will have pepper spray on us, and that's just for our protection.
mhm.
But again, anything higher than pepper spray, folks, is with extreme caution. Tasers, or if we rock our second A, we're very careful to make sure that it's a last resort. We don't want to draw those at all. Never. Nope. But yeah, no. So again, he could have softly violated Sacramento Community Watch's rights and did a Terry pat down on him, and probably could have got away with qualified immunity if Sacramento decided to go that route. But did he do a Terry pat down to check him for weapons? No, he went right to detainment and arrest for obstructing an officer, all because of ADHD.
Mind you, slamming me against the glass.
Right, excessive use of force, folks. I mean, now, none of this has been substantiated by the Reno PD. This is just the court of public opinion, folks. Again, everybody's entitled to their rights. And First Amendment right is a double-edged sword, folks, so please use it wisely.
Okay? And you're standing there, you won't move. You've gone all the way around and you come back down. And you've got that camera, and your hand is down by your side. And then the police officer state of mind, even Miss Holly was concerned, was scared. These are what to do. They don't need to be.
Even Miss Holly was scared.
Again,
If that's the case, I was scared too. I'm standing there near a police officer and Holly. I was scared.
Again, if Tony the Tyrant knew the law and knew what you were doing, what you said you were coming back over to record, if
Right.
you would have told her what the law was on recording police officers and police activity under NRS 171.1233, it probably would have assuaded her fears. Who's fearful around? What bootlicking person is afraid of for their lives when the cops around? It makes absolutely no sense.
They don't need to be delayed. They don't need to be obstructed. They don't. You had ample opportunity. By the travel that you took is bothersome. And it's bothersome when it comes to the state of
The time they took to travel was bothersome.
Right. How?
How is it bothersome? It's a constitutional right. You have a constitutional right to travel. You have a constitutional right to film the police officer.
Religion, press. I mean,
officer.
Just it makes no sense. Again, I seen when he was talking this way, I was going, oh yeah, he's leaning towards officer safety.
oh yeah, he's leaning towards.
I'm not going to keep my mind on this car and Holly and whether or not it's a stolen vehicle, but now he's got to dedicate his focus to you, which takes him away from the focus of his job.
Okay,
He sounds just like a police officer. that stops somebody and say, "Oh, I have to take my focus for what I'm doing to now to concentrate on you." Dude, no, you don't. You do your effing job and shut up. That's all. Those are all the options you have. Do your job and shut up.
This right here, folks, it is basically his job. NRS 171.1233. It even says here, peace officers shall not act to interfere with a person's recording of a law enforcement activity, including without limitation to intentionally preventing or attempt to prevent the person from recording a law enforcement activity, threatening the person for recording a law enforcement activity, commanding that person to cease recording a law enforcement activity when the person nevertheless is authorized by law to record the law enforcement activity, stopping, seizing, or searching the person because he or she recorded the law enforcement activity, and unlawfully seizing property or instruments used by the person to record law enforcement activity, unlawfully destroying or seizing any recorded image of the law enforcement activity, or copying the recording of law enforcement activity without the consent of the person who recorded it, or obtaining approval from the appropriate court. He stopped your video. He seized your video. He's already guilty of this.
Literally pushed stop and threw it up on the back of the car.
In this section, law enforcement activity means any activity by a peace officer acting under the color of law. So that means even if he is investigating a stolen car, it is his right to record him. And yes, and then turn his own insult into a crime on you. Yeah. Folks, no. Re-victimizing the victim again.
And so with that, the totality of the circumstances, state of mind, the training of the officer, what these guys go through every day. They pull over a guy in a car. They don't know if there's a 357 in his lap or in the lap.
Sounds like a cop splinter.
Yeah.
Of the passenger.
And did he just say a 357?
Yeah, 357. Or, yeah.
Really? He should have said a bow and arrow.
Again, mind you, a couple days before this court case, there was an incident where a Sparks police officer, or was it a Reno? I forget which one.
Perfectly fine, but that has nothing to do with what happened.
It has nothing to do with this case, but yet they brought it up as, well, you could have a gun and just in a matter of 1.5 seconds shoot somebody just because this other guy in a car did. And then we had this all out police hunt for this person because they, I'm sorry, this is part of their job. This is what they signed on for. This is what they agreed to do. And yes, we all want them to go home safely, but we're out there recording them just as much for their safety as ours. And we understand the risks that go on when we go out there, and we don't need to be told that by the officers. Thank you very much,
right,
Katie, for trying to look out for us, but no, thank you.
And folks,
we understand the risks.
This is exactly why we, deploy undercover watchmen out there who don't, wear a vest and other things. They wear cameras and they have microphones, but that's why we put undercover personnel out there, because law enforcement, they need to be watched 100%. There's never a time when you should never watch law enforcement. You should always pick up your camera. You should always record them no matter what the situation. Even if you see an animal control officer, record them. Period.
Always record the public officials.
Period.
And even if you go in and do a public records request, you're allowed to record that transaction, folks. And don't let no sign tell you otherwise unless there's a statute below it.
That's why these guys live under this, arguably, an ongoing fear of their job. And they might admit it, they might not, but I think it's present. As far as him.
If you fear your job, I keep effing saying it. Go apply at Popeye's Chicken. They're hiring.
Exactly. I understand that there is fear with this job. I understand that. And I understand
I understand it too, hands down. I mean,
don't get me wrong, folks. We understand and we get it. But the thing is that you have to analyze that fear and those threats every single day. And if it gets to the point where you can't, where it looks like Tony the Tyrant can't, then he needs to quit. He needs to resign. He needs to turn over his badge, or what this guy is probably going to wind up doing is he's going to get himself in trouble more than once, which he's already been in trouble before you. Mm-hmm. battering a mother.
His attitude is effed up. He thinks that he's everybody's judge. He thinks that he's everybody's deputy. He thinks that he's everybody's federal agent. He thinks that he's everybody's president. He thinks that he's everybody's soccer mom.
He thinks that he is a cop, and the nastiest thing that I can tell a law enforcement officer is to refer to yourself as a cop. There is no such thing as cops. There's law enforcement officer, public safety officer, but nowhere in the law does it ever say that they are a cop. And the moment you start getting into the cop mentality and you start thinking like a cop is nothing more than a Hollywood construct. It is a fictionalization of a law enforcement officer. And the moment a law enforcement officer starts getting a cop mentality is the moment that they start going downhill into tyrant mode. I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Let's keep going this.
During the lane, him taking his mind off of that car, talking to the victim in this manner.
He never was talking with the victim. They were talking about Sacramento Community Watch. So again, he's taking the fictionalization of the fictionalization story of the cop and backing the cop up on this.
That constitutes obstructing. So I'm going to find you guilty on this matter. Sitting on sentencing, and by the way, thank this guy. He did a great job.
Appreciate that.
Your Honor, we felt a suspended sentence as appropriate.
So at this point, folks, Sacramento Community Watch was felt guilty by via a bench trial for resisting a public officer.
Horrible. Disgusting.
And as you heard, the judge, in the court of public opinion here, wasn't able to draw the distinction between resisting and obstructing here. It basically just agreed, with officer safety at this point. Yep. So that's basically my take on his ruling. Again, I'm no legal expert. None of us here are. None of us have any class. Again, this is just the court of public opinion, folks. And please feel free to redress your grievances with your government, but please do so responsibly. Also, folks, I want to take a moment here to pause, take a time out here. Go to Sacramento Community Watch's channel, like, share, subscribe. Go to Reno News Now and the ADHD Auditor, my channels. Please like, share, and subscribe there as well. Also, Xander the Educator, again, like, share, and subscribe. All of our links are down in the bottom of our descriptions, folks. Please take a moment and smash that like button. We need the watch hours up on Sacramento Community Watch's hours. We're very, very close to hitting the second tier of monetization to where 95% ads on the videos and stuff like that. So we're getting the watch hours up there. Reno News Now and Xander the Educator. We need subscriptions as well as watch hours. So please, if you guys take a moment here, please contact us as well. Links in the descriptions and everything, folks. So let's go ahead. Now we're going to talk about sentencing. So they're going to try to find an appropriate form of punishment here now that he's been found guilty. So we're going to kick it off here.
A suspended jail sentence of 120 days, suspended for a period of 2 years on the condition he obey all laws.
Okay, so what she's asking for here, guys, is basically 3 months in jail if he gets into any trouble over 2 years. So basically he keeps out of jail. Tony the Tyrant still hasn't gotten him behind bars yet or even in jail yet. Basically, like she's asking for is 2 years that Sacramento has to keep his nose clean and stay out of trouble, and he'll avoid jail time all completely. Otherwise, if he gets into any trouble while cop watching, guess what? He goes into jail for 3 months. Just downright stupid for a victimless crime.
Not a crime.
And consume no drugs.
Not a crime, yes.
Mr. Egerton?
Your Honor, I think that's a pretty outrageous proposal with full respect to the city. Again, as the court is well aware.
Schumann should be on probation. 10 years. No cell phone calls.
No cell phone calls.
No fruits or vegetables. Bye.
Mr. England is responding to, it's not lost on anyone in the courtroom. I haven't wanted to kind of get, Mr. England is black, right?
Oh my gosh, Sacramento, did you know?
Right.
Did you know that you were black?
Yeah. You see the color of my skin?
Do you see the color that I am?
Courtesy of
Am I gonna be
officers.
famous to you and put me on your YouTube video?
Keep firing, assholes!
Oh, man. Sotelo is funny, guys. God.
But yeah, silent order is suspended. Yeah, they want to stretch it out for as long as they want, because what they want to do is then, because if Tony the Tyrant knew that he was on a suspended sentence, guess what? More retaliatory interaction against him. I already seen it. This is already seen it on the horizon, folks.
Let's make sure that's not lost on anyone. The statute that animates his activity, 171.1233, came out of our 32nd special session in 2020, right after about a month.
He said it, 171.1233, guys.
And again, this is just, you guys are going to get such a history lesson right now on that law. So we're just going to let it play out the rest while he explains this law. It's just so much behind it, and it did come after the aftermath of the George Floyd murder. And again, if you haven't seen the George Floyd murder, you guys need to go YouTube that right after this video, folks. It's just downright disgraceful.
For the George Floyd murder, okay, where a black man had his neck knelt on for 9 minutes until he died at the hands of a white police officer in full view of a crowd of people, including bystander video, that made it a global phenomenon. That is the context in which the statute with which Mr. England clothes himself arises. This court has determined that he got the balance wrong, right? This court is not saying he doesn't have a First Amendment right to record. The court's just saying that he has to better calibrate that to officer safety concerns. We respectfully disagree, but I think it's a valid position for the court to take, and that might be examined later on review. But that is the court's finding, and what animates this conviction. So it's essentially Mr. England, in this court's view, got the balance wrong. How close is too close? Well, he was too close. That's essentially what I hear the court to be saying, as he's trying to exercise an important First Amendment right, one that is well established in case law going back decades, and one that is newly animated by the racial reckoning that we've had over the last couple of years, and concerns about police transparency, accountability, and excessive force. The whole reason that he and his colleagues go out and do this activity is out of a concern that police activity will not always be within the confines of our civil rights, and therefore needs to be audited, so to speak, to ensure that it's ongoing and proper. So the idea that we would put Mr. England on a 4-month jail sentence, suspended for 2 years, when we consider these sentences that this court metes out on DUIs, domestic batteries, batteries against officers, other O&Rs that are physical, is, I think, a pretty outrageous proposal. Mr. England was trying to vindicate his constitutional rights and engage in protected First Amendment speech. This court has determined that he got that balance wrong, but to punish him in that way is outrageous. Frankly, this is a time-served case, but I think that given the context, a small sentence would be appropriate. Maybe 10 days. Again, the point would be to send a message that he got the balance wrong and needs to mind his P's and Q's. If he's going to continue this activity, he needs to give a wider berth. That can rarely be accomplished and the community kept safe by ordering him to obey all laws, or even specifically to calibrate his auditing activities, but it's not to hang 4 months over his head should he miss that.
Let me ask you, is that why the auditors were established, because of the Floyd case?
This movement is older than that. I think it's maybe 20 years old, but I think it is very much animated by that. And I will tell you that just subjectively, from the time I met Mr. England and his colleagues and began talking about this case, it's been 171.1233, 171.1233. This is their holy grail, this right to record statute that we passed. And so it's very much...
I don't see a racial involvement here. I mean, there was 1 or 2 other times that we were involved, and Officer Sotelo was involved, and he said...
Do you see the color that I am?
This one was one that he believed subjectively concerning him, but the crime that he was investigating had no racial component.
No, I fully concede that. What I'm saying is the place that Mr. England is coming from here. This is not again, the idea that he would be punished with 4 months in jail hanging over his head for a 2-year period is the kind of thing we do when people's conduct in this court is outrageous, right? I mean, those are serious cases. And I'm just pointing out that Mr. England is coming from a place of concerns about civil rights that are animated, I think we can assume, in part because of his own subjective experiences as a black man, not only in America, but in Reno, Nevada.
I just forgot to add, we'd like him to be booked and released on this. He should have been arrested, potentially for this. So we do want it on his record.
Been arrested for what?
So I want to point out here then, folks, because we brought up NRS 171.1233. If Sacramento Community Watch wins this appeal, I think that Tony the Tyrant needs to be brought up on NRS 171.1233 because the law is clearly established.
Right. And we are going to win the appeal. Hands down. Hands down.
That means, Mr. England, is that you get done, you're going to approach them. You're not going to jail today. You're going to go down. This is going to go on your record. Okay, I'm going to make it 30 days suspended, 1 year. Conditions are obey all laws. Are you working? Yeah. Okay. And a $300 legal defender fee. Okay. Anything else?
That's
Set up your, talk to the marshal here, and she'll talk to you, and they're going to pay your legal defender fee, and you can make payments on it.
Your Honor, is he to be booked and released?
And book written.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
And that will be on his own ledger, or that'll be, how are we going to execute the book release?
Oh, he's going to go down personally. I'll be able to do it down.
Okay, great. And actually, the one other thing, I don't know if this court, if I need to make an oral reservation of appeal, if that just happens by paper.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you have a right to appeal within 10 days. The bond for that will be $1,000.
Paid.
Did we give the court all of the exhibits? Did we give the court all the exhibits? Okay, thank you. Okay, yes. Thank you.
All the exhibits, the pieces of paper she printed out is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh.
You're not going to get to watch my slideshow at home.
You know, I'm still a film guy. I don't even need digital, so don't throw that. Thank you, officer. Thank you, everyone else.
Thank you.
Okay, and mind you, folks, this is coming from the same judge who told me on my request for media access, he was not going to allow me to defame the police department. So, yeah, we kind of expected something like this. So, again, that's where we where the court left off. He was found guilty. Suspended sentence for 30 days over a year. However, that is currently on hold. It's been stayed. We have successfully obtained the bond. We have successfully gotten the ball rolling with the appeals court, and that will be done through the Washoe County court systems. Now, I do want to take some time out here to also throw some information up on the screen. And again, please do so responsibly, folks. Here is the city attorney's office. If you'd like to share your thoughts or feelings, your displeasures, here's all their public information on how to get a hold of them. Again, folks, we do not condone any threats, force, or violence against any of our public officials. So please exercise your First Amendment rights to redress your grievances and your right to freedom of speech responsibly. Just like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, you cannot threaten these people with force or violence.
Or bomb an airport.
Yell bomb in an airport. Yeah, that's generally frowned upon, folks. So, here's that information up on the screen. You guys can fax their the city attorney's information. The other phone number I have for you as well that is publicly available is, let's see here, all divisions here, share this screen. This is the Reno Police Department's phone number and email address, folks. Again, we ask that you please exercise your rights accordingly. So, does anybody else have any other comments tonight?
Like, share, subscribe. Again, we have super chats. I want you guys to take advantage of that. And yeah, we thank you guys for joining. We love everybody for joining us, like to the core, literally.
Yep. Just so you folks are, just so you folks are aware, please hit the the subscribe button on Sacramento's. You can also hit the join button. Memberships start at $2.99 a month, and you get a wonderful little icon next to your name that tells you how long you've been with a subscriber. Now, I normally don't subscribe to things on YouTube in that sort of fashion. However, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So I am Sacramento Community Watch's first YouTube subscriber, and he is my first channel that I have ever subscribed to. So just a full disclosure here, folks. So please, we do have super chats that you guys can use in the future as well. Anybody who does a super chat, we will give you guys a shout out at the end of the night. Unfortunately, nobody did a super chat tonight. It looks like so.
We also have exclusive videos, like really exclusive videos that we want the people who are memberships to take a look at for us. So
yeah, we're gonna put exclusive content up there as well, folks. Again, we will have the full court audio for you guys to digest at your own leisure, probably within the next 24 to 48 hours over at our accountability channel, the ADHD Auditor. You can find that at ADHD Auditor. But is there anything else we need to discuss while I'm thinking here?
No, we're pretty much good on my end.
We're pretty
Love you
much
guys
good.
for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Shout out to all of our followers, and we really do love you guys, and thanks you for watching. Peace.